Do y'all have some questions or things that you want to make sure that we touch on today? I thought it'd be good to have an open forum because we haven't done one in a while. People have had some good questions in past weeks. Yeah, possibly some scenarios you've come past. Okay.
Well, I guess it's not really, I don't know, maybe it is maybe more of a major topic, but as far as, you know, like the buyers that you might have talked to over like winter and like early year that says, oh, you know, in the spring, I'm going to be looking, is there like a certain like nudge that you might send out as opposed to other, you know, like information that you send out to them?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it depends on what they're planning to do, if they're selling or buying. But I would say for the people who are buying, it's a great opportunity to send them some updates on what's happening in the market. So, you know, some listings they might be interested in. If you do that through MLS, you can see if they open it. You could send them, you know, even just to say like, I know it's a crazy market, but I got an accepted offer last week or something like that. Just some kind of bit of information where you're not asking them to provide something to you. You're just checking in with a little bit of helpful info. If it's a seller, I would definitely say do an updated market analysis of their property and reach out to them with that information ready to go, rather than saying like, hey, do you want me to send you a, because then they have to respond. If you're like, hey, I did the work, I put this together for you. I knew that, you know, we've watched the market. We know things are, you know, activity is very fast paced and offers are coming in well over asking price. And there's, you know, it's a great time to sell. So here's a market valuation to give you an idea of your current home value. Something like that to kind of pique their interest and provide something of value to them, I think is the way to go. So whatever that little bit of info happens to be, if it's like, hey, I noticed this great house popped up, or it's coming soon this weekend, in case you're interested, how are you doing, or whatever, just to say like, this made me think of you, as a nice introduction without it being too aggressive. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to, you know, press, you know what I mean? Because a few of them already are set on MLS, and I have noticed what they've opened, and you know, I don't want to be like, hey, like, you know, so you want to buy that one, or you know, they're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I want to, you know, let them, you know, be interested and me be their guide, not vice versa.
Yeah, I think that's always, anytime you're like, man, I really need to contact this person, or I need to know if, you know, I need to get back in front of them, coming from contribution is always a good fallback. So like whatever you can provide, even if it's not real estate related. So if it's like, you know, this person loves great coffee and you're like, hey, I noticed, you know, this coffee shop is open again for, you know, indoor seating, or, oh my gosh, I just had the best latte ever at this place and it made me think of you. Whatever it is, those little things that are coming from contribution, just a little check-in, without asking them to provide you something or make a decision or, you know, reply back even, is good. And sometimes you don't get a reply from them and you think like, they don't even care that I'm trying. But I'll tell you, I had a past client call me on Saturday. I've been sending them cards. I've been, you know, reaching out to them every once in a while. I really haven't heard back, but out of the blue, he got a new job in DC. They're moving, and now I have a listing coming up in a month. So those things do make a difference. People do see them even if they don't reply. And if you send them something that doesn't require anything of them, right? Like we're all busy, we're like, oh, somebody else needs me for something. So if you just send something that's, you know, just a little pop in, nothing that I need from you, just let you know I'm thinking of you, and a great reminder of what you do, that can go a long way. Yeah, because it's for sure spring. It is almost summer at this point. So people are saying spring, it's time, let's go. All right, who else has some questions? Caitlin, we had a great accountability call the other day. That was real good. If you have any questions that came up from that.
Amanda, can go.
You can go ahead.
Thank you. This is Paula Glowacki. How are you?
Oh, hey. I was like, who's Eduardo's phone?
Eduardo's phone is, he's my partner, my boyfriend partner. We work together. You gotta meet him.
I do. Oh my God, I can't wait to do this stuff in person, you guys. It's killing me.
I know. This is awesome. We're in the car. This is us right here. We're like waiting for a doctor's appointment. So
nice.
So, I had a question about single party listings, actually.
Yeah.
I've never really done one. And I know that, what's his name?
Peter?
Peter, yeah, posted something on Facebook, and like it was like kind of weird. So like, if you don't mind like refreshing us on like single party listings, like how much can we charge? Like, do we have to charge 6%? Can we charge less? What is the right way to do it? Do we have to pay the buyer's agent a minimum of 2.4? Like all of that stuff.
Yeah. So with any of this commission stuff, we have a lot of flexibility with Keller Williams. So it in some ways it comes down to what you want to do. What I've done in the past, I have, kind of worked through what's justifiable reasoning for it. I will tell you, the first time I did a single party, I didn't know what the heck it was. I had an experienced agent on the other side who was listing, and I was like, neat, what is this? And I really didn't understand. So basically, just to give you a little background, single party listing is a property is not listed live on the market or an MLS. You write a listing contract, and instead of putting in the marketing plan, you write in, this is a single party listing or an exclusive listing for, and you put the buyer's names. So if you have a property that maybe there's a tenant and the seller doesn't want to disturb them with 1,000 showings. Maybe they don't want to have to do anything to get the house ready for pictures or whatever. Maybe they don't want pictures out there. Maybe they want privacy, or they don't want their neighbors to know the house is for sale, or have some random person come through. There's lots of reasons why that might be advantageous to a seller. On the flip side, they are not open to the full market. So they may not get the competition or the price or the crazy terms they're hoping for, but some people have other priorities. And if you've got aggressive buyers who've been out there, who understand what they need to do to get an accepted offer, they may get you to that point anyway. But it's a little bit different scenario. So it's important, if you are offering this to a seller, that they understand the benefits and drawbacks. So that being said, when you write up this listing contract, you can write a single party listing for more than one party. So if you know that, there's people that have buyers in a certain area, or an agent that often works in investment properties, and you're like, man, I'm going to call that agent up and just say like, hey, I've got this single party listing opportunity. Do you have a buyer? And maybe you call 5 agents. You can put all those buyers' names in that single party listing contract. But then only those parties are able to see the property and can, of course, then write an offer. You can set the time frame as well, so that if the seller's like, well, I want to try this out, if it doesn't work, then we'll go live on the market. So you still set your deadlines and everything else the same. When it comes to commission, for me, I see this as a listing where I'm not paying for the marketing side of it. I am making phone calls, my time is involved. So one could argue 6%, that's it. But I don't have to pay my photographer. I'm not putting things out on social media. I'm not paying for a sign. There are things that I normally would do that I'm not doing, potentially some staging, like a staging consult. So if I'm not doing those things, then I see it justifiable to say 5.5 or 5%, kind of depending on what your relationship is to the person, how, all kinds of things related to that property. And then when it comes to the co-broke, I personally offer 2.4. I think, the buyer's agent, this doesn't necessarily save them any time, effort, or, frustration. They've probably been out there with this buyer looking at other properties. So yes, it's an excellent opportunity for their client. So maybe they're willing to give a little bit, but I've never done that. I don't see the point in penalizing my co-broke. I do 2.4%. We're all in this together. We all got to work together again at some point. I think when you start cutting the co-broke commission, like in other areas, it's 3%. We're already down to 2.4. I would rather keep it at 2.4. Whether it's consciously or unconsciously, I think when people have a lower commission, they don't try as hard. They don't make as much of an effort. They have a chip on their shoulder about it the whole time. And it's not worth it for that to happen to my seller. So that's my opinion. Everybody approaches it differently, but yeah, that's a good question. It can definitely be, it can make you look like a hero as a buyer's agent, but I don't know if it's worth giving up a chunk of cash for. Yeah, good question.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. What else you got? I know Betsy a couple weeks ago was asking me about, like, you have an accepted offer. Now, what do you do? How are you feeling about that part of the process, Betsy, or anybody else?
Feeling good about it generally, because I've been through a few now, but just thought it would be like a helpful topic because I know so much of the focus has been on getting offers accepted, and then like
Yeah.
written 40 offers, and then you finally get one you're accepted, and you're like, shoot.
What now? Yeah, that's a good point. One thing I highly recommend everybody does is, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again because it's important. Once you get an accepted offer, take the time to go back through all the offer documents, make sure they are signed and that you've got all the dates correct. So put them in your calendar, share them with your co-broke just to say, I want to confirm that I have these right. Share them with your client, whether it's your buyer or your seller, and make sure that you are checking in every week to keep yourself on track with those due dates and deadlines. That is such a huge thing. It is one of the mistakes I see new agents make more often than they should, is they miss a deadline, especially when it comes to like inspection or appraisal. That's a big deal. So making sure you've got those dates in order is a big piece of that. When it comes to like, what do you do with documents outside of putting things in command and, you know, getting those in for compliance? If you have a buyer, I like to offer to send the documents to my buyer's lender. I would say confirm which lender they are using, because some buyers get more than one pre-approval. And even if they use one pre-approval for their offer, yes, they should stick with that lender. That's who the seller agreed to with this offer. But if they did decide to switch, you know, you could work that out, and it would be good to make sure you're sending the documents to the right lender. So if I do that, I will send it to the lender and then copy my buyer on that email, so everybody's on the same page. Hey, we got an accepted offer. Looking forward to working with you. Here's the offer documents. Let me know if you need anything else. Please confirm receipt. And then my buyer has copies and their lender has copies, and my buyer knows that the lender has copies. But I always like to ask first. Sending things directly to the lender, I think, is very convenient, but some buyers like to be more involved. So it's just nice that they know and they've given you the okay. If you have sellers, then you want to make sure that you're sending it to the title company and the seller, and confirming that the seller is okay with using Focus Title or whomever you choose, and then sending the documents to both to say, we have an accepted offer, we're off and running, here you go. What I like to include with our important dates for our clients is a handy checklist that has all the next steps in it. I actually had a closing yesterday and my clients were like, I can't tell you how often we went back and looked at that to make sure we had everything ready and done. And it was super helpful. They even had a friend who had an agent who wasn't very helpful, and they gave their friend my checklist to help them through the process. So that is something you can put together that's going to help you have a clearer idea of what the next steps are from accepted offer to closing. It's going to hold you accountable. It's going to be a good process for you to go through just to make sure you're clear on all the steps. When I first put that together, it was because I wanted to make sure that I was learning that correctly, and ran it by some experienced agents to make sure I wasn't missing anything, checked in with the title company, checked in with the lender. But it's a one-page, just quick reference, like, okay, appraisal. So here's what happens with appraisal. Here's the typical time frame. It's very helpful for people. I've seen really fun ones that look like game boards or, you know, little paths or charts, flow charts, just a page with writing, however you want to do it. It's a good exercise to do, and it's a really helpful thing for your client. And that way, they're not texting you all the time like, well, what happens next? Well, what happens next? You've got that there for them. And then you can proactively check in at the beginning of the week and say, okay, this week, this is due, here's where we're at, or at the end of the week, wherever you are. So those are the major things to kind of get the ball rolling. Also, if you have buyers, once the offer is accepted, immediately schedule the inspection. I'm gonna say that again. Once you have an accepted offer, schedule the inspection immediately. Should happen within the first 3 to 5 days after acceptance. Don't wait until somebody decides to finally call an inspector and get it scheduled. Those guys are busy, and also your time frame for inspection is not that long. You know, you probably put in somewhere between 10 and 15 days, and you want to make sure that you have as much time as possible for expert follow-up and negotiations. So scheduling that inspection as soon as possible is good. Yeah.
Question for you. So like inspection, I understand that. And then like the financing contingency and the appraisal, that's all handled by the lender. But this one, well inspection and water test, that is on the buyer, right?
No, it's on the seller.
Okay, so the seller does that. Okay.
Most typically anyway. Now, of course, in this competitive market, you might go a creative route, but it's most typical that the seller will be the one to order and pay for water testing, well inspection, septic.
Okay.
Yep.
So I just need to check in and see that that's moving along.
Yeah, and you've got due dates and deadlines for that on the addendum A as well. So it's the due dates and deadlines you can check in on when you confirm them with the agent. And then as you get closer to that time frame, you can just say like, hey, just checking in to see if that's been ordered yet.
Okay.
Most listing agents who deal with that on a regular basis are really on top of it. The ones who aren't might forget. So it's definitely good to check in because that's something that takes some time to get results back for. Another thing to do immediately is to confirm earnest money instructions. So when you send those due dates and deadlines to the listing agent, if you have a buyer, that's a good time to just say, hey, I just wanted to confirm the earnest money instructions. Should they, are you using trust funds, or should they just do a check to your office? If you're not familiar with the brokerages, Shore West, you can drop off an earnest money check at any office, but you'd better give those instructions to your buyer that they should include the property address and your email to get the earnest money receipt, because otherwise it takes a while. If you drop off a earnest money check at any Keller Williams office, it doesn't go to the right place necessarily. So make sure you're getting confirmation of that. It's a good thing to kind of keep track of as well in your mind. Also, I like to confirm right off the bat as well the title company the seller is using. So if you have a buyer, you're reaching out to the agent to say, thanks, we're so excited to work with you. Here's my due dates and deadlines to confirm. I'd like to confirm earnest money instructions, and we're going to be scheduling the inspection right away. Are there any days and times we should avoid? And what's the title company contact info for the seller? Then you get all this stuff out of the way right off the bat. You can send the title contact information to the lender. You can get that inspection scheduled. Your buyer can get earnest money going right away, so you don't have to worry about that being late. Be the one running the show. And if you have sellers, reach out to the buyer's agent. Here's my confirmed due dates and deadlines. Here's the title company information for who we're using. Here's the earnest money instructions. Then you don't have to wait for them to ask you for something when you're in the middle of a showing or something. You can just proactively send that stuff out. And that really gets the ball rolling. Because it's like a lot at the beginning. And then once you get through inspection, then like appraisal happens and it all kind of slows down for a bit. So it's good to be really on top of things at the start, because your client's going to feel overwhelmed.
Amanda, a couple more questions for me here.
Yeah.
First, I was told, my understanding was that the GMAR addendum A was not needed if you were not going to be requesting anything from there. So if I'm not requesting seller's credits or any further testing or a home warranty, like I don't use that at all. But then Shore West, apparently we have to have it even though we're not requesting anything. Have you heard that before?
So I would say best practice, always use it. Even if it's full of all NAs, you are covering your butt and you're also giving your client the opportunity to know what's in there. You don't want to write an offer without it and then later have them say, well, I never knew I could ask for a warranty, or I didn't have any idea I could ask for closing cost credits, or nobody talked to me about the opportunity for other testing. Even if you're going to say, in this market, I recommend not including those things, and here's why, it still shows that they had the chance to look at that they signed off on it. It just makes it very clear. The other thing that's really helpful on there that they added a number of years ago is at the bottom of the addendum A is all the contact information for each agent. And that is really helpful info for the title company, the lender, the appraiser. It's just there for everybody's reference. And I think that's really helpful and something they look for. So even though it's annoying to write a bunch of NAs in an addendum A, you could always make a PDF of it and throw it into zip forms or DocuSign where everything's NA, and then just add the text box for the address and the buyer's name. But I think best practice is to include that.
Okay. All right. I'll do that.
Cool.
And then the other question was, I'm in a scenario right now with a for sale by owner, and my buyers. So I brought the buyers in, and they're gonna pay us a commission, which is great. But our buyers went from being pre-approved with Fairway to now they want to go with better.com, which is, not like an online lender. And whatchamacallit, I'm getting a call, I'm sorry. So they're doing an appraisal, a desktop appraisal, which I've heard of before for refinancing purposes, not necessarily for buying a property, to be honest, like with you. But I'm worried about it because this property, I think it's definitely worth a lot more than what they might get on a computer. And I just don't know how to handle it because I don't want my sellers to pay my buyers, I don't want my buyers to pay more than what it truly appraises for, but I also don't want the sellers to, like not have the value that they also deserve, even though I'm only representing the buyers.
Yeah. Do you have an appraisal contingency?
I do.
So, they're protected by that. I would also find out if they would allow you, if the appraisal company would take your list of comparables if you wanted to proactively. Usually this is the listing agent's job, is to provide a list of comparables and highlights, all the important things about the house to make sure nothing's missed. But you could try, since it's a for sale by owner, you could advocate for your client in that way and just say, could I send over an email with my comparables list? Would that be helpful? And just see what they say. I mean, usually when it's a desk review, people are like, awesome, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's guaranteed to appraise, but it says that the lender feels pretty confident. So, I mean, it could be a good sign, but it's not a guarantee, but you can try to kind of do everything you can.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Caitlin, did you have something earlier? Somebody did.
No, I was just responding to about our call last week.
Oh, yeah. Plug our call. Wasn't it great?
It was amazing. It really was good though. I figured out my goals for the rest of the year and I kind of broke it down into weekly, what I want to do and how to do it. So
awesome.
I thought
and that was like what, a 25-minute call?
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
Yeah. Worth the investment, y'all.
Highly recommend.
Thanks.
10 out of 10.
Awesome. How is everybody feeling about potentially starting these up again in person? Would you find that you would be more likely to attend? And
Without a doubt.
interact. Yeah. Is there anybody
sure.
who's like, there's no way I can make it in person?
So where would it be?
Here, Keller Williams' office, Silver Spring.
Whitefish Bay.
Yep.
I would think that would be a little bit of a challenge just because I live in Elm Grove. But
Okay.
like I could get to quite a few of them, but not all of them.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, and I don't know if we would hop around at any point in terms of location, but and we've talked about some other things as far as the launch group goes that we could do in person. So that may be coming on. I know Charlie mentioned a little bit in the meeting today too. I'm so surprised nobody else has questions. Everybody knows exactly what they're doing. They're doing great. Business is awesome. No
I can
problems.
share a story.
Okay.
So I had an accepted offer about 2 weeks ago, and I knew they needed to sell their home. So they said they were going to do for sale by owner. And then she contacted me and said, if I had you sell our home, what would you charge and what would that include? So I talked to Betsy. Betsy's on the call here today too. And we kind of talked it through, and I didn't want to charge him 6% because she was specifically asking, what would I charge and what does that include? And then I had just, got an accepted offer with these same people. So we decided I would go in at 5%. And then I kind of told her marketing, open house, photography, all the things that it would include. And then she kind of came back and forth a couple times. And then she said that other brokers had offered to do it for 5% as well. And would I go lower? So then I'm like, well, I really want this listing. And so I talked with Carla Florence and some other people, and they said, well, why don't you contact Kimmy and see if you can get permission to go lower? So I did that. They approved 4.5%. It's getting pretty skinny in the deal now, but and then I let now she's the seller. I let the seller know, and then she waited a little bit and she came back to me and she's like, well, I really wanted to work with you, but I had this other broker who has been hounding me every month for the last 1.5 years to sell my house. So I went with her, and I was like, oh my God, I just jumped through hoops to get you a lower rate. So I just wanted to share that in case anyone else comes across something like that. And I thought it was interesting because I remember in one of the team meetings, Charlie said that like 80% of listing appointments, the sellers don't go and look and shop the market at other brokers. So I was like, wow, this lady kind of really went and did shop the deal.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on that. I mean, it sounds like someone was regularly checking in and being consistent with her, and that's what won over. So I think that's a really good lesson. I talked till I'm blue in the face about follow up, and consistency, but it's true. I would also say that there are some great scripts out there. Clearly, the commission rate was not her number one concern. So in the absence of value, people look to price. So in the absence of her thinking what you were offering was valuable, or your aggressive nature versus this other person was valuable enough, she didn't need to go to commission. She was looking at that, but yeah, I mean, not necessarily hounding somebody, but checking in regularly can pay off. I also think when it comes to people asking about commission, there's some really good scripts for that in regards to for sale by owner versus listing with an agent. That percentage of sale price drops pretty significantly if they're selling by owner versus selling with an agent. So having those statistics handy can be really helpful. Also, one of my favorite lines is, if I'm willing to negotiate on the commission that comes to me, my family, my brokerage, and not to mention almost half of that goes to a list or a buyer's agent. If I'm willing to just give that away for my own money, how am I going to negotiate for you and your money? People really have a hard time coming up with a response to that. So it's not all about the commission, and it's really easy to just say, well, I guess I'll take this. I'm new. I'd love this listing. But at the end of the day, like I said, people subconsciously don't work as hard when the commission's lower. They just don't. So you're probably going to have to do 2.4 to get a buyer in, so that significantly cuts your side of the deal. And it's not just you, it's your photographer, it's, there are lots of other people. So you could have a breakdown of what that looks like, what the benefits are. But having something in place like that, I think, is worth it, because it's a slippery slope. If you start dropping with hardly any resistance, it can get really low really quick. And then you're like, oh no, what did I do? And then it's like, well, I did it for that person, so is this just how I do it now? And if they talk to their friend and recommend you, then do you have to do it for them? Like, it can really quickly become kind of your typical commission, and that might not be so great for how you want to run your business. So yeah, I think it's really tempting when you're new to try to cut as much as you can, but I think there's really something to be said for being confident in your value. And that other agent probably was charging more than 4.5% and was probably confident in their value. Hounding, not my favorite, but if they were consistent and checking in, had a very clear value proposition, those are the things people go for. So, and like, you're new, you don't have all that stuff lined up yet, but I think that's a good thing to take from this, is that it's not all about the commission. And honestly, if it was all about the commission, do you really want to work with them? They're going to be a pain in the butt. The whole process is going to be about every nickel and dime to negotiate through. And maybe that's not worth it. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not.
And is it your experience, like Charlie said, your personal experience, that people don't shop a listing agent very much?
Honestly, the listings I've gotten, I think there's maybe 2 of my whole career that I knew that I was in competition. And maybe I was in competition more often than that, but most of the time it's repeat and referral for me and Sphere. So they're already like on board, and then our listing visits more about, their motivation, understanding the process, what to expect, making a plan. The few times I've been in competition, I'm just really confident and straightforward about how I operate and how I'm going to make this easy for them. And there's value in that.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, Amanda,
Yeah,
are you there?
I'm here.
Sorry, I was on and off. So I got a few questions about commercial. We have 2 listings on and it when I got the listing, it was before I even got my license, and it worked out. They signed up for the 6%, everything is good, but they're not moving as fast as residential.
It's commercial with residential though.
It's actually half and half.
Okay.
Yeah, so the bottom is a bar and the top is 2 apartments.
Mm-hmm.
But
Commercial always moves slower. Commercial is slow.
Is there anything else we could do?
I mean, I think if it's a bar, being creative, much like a residential property, right? You got to think about who's our audience and then go after those buyers and their agents. So who works with people who are purchasing multi-use properties? Who works with investors? Who has sold other like properties in MLS? You can find that information and you can reverse prospect and go to those agents directly and say, hey, I've got this property. I don't know if you noticed it. Here's like a really easy cheat sheet of the basic information. Investors care about how old are the mechanicals? What do I need to put money into? What's been updated? What are the rents? Who's the tenant? And like, how easy can I make money off of this? And approach it from that perspective. It's not as floral as residential, like it's not like, oh, picture yourself in the sun and blah. It's not about that. It's like, how much money can I make? What needs to be done? Is everything in working order or not? And if it's not, maybe there's some stuff that needs to be addressed there, but commercial generally is slower paced.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else have some questions? So we're almost halfway through the year. Has everybody taken the time to go into Command and figure out what your goals are for the year or for the rest of the year and how you're going to break that down by week? I know this sounds like really boring homework stuff. I cannot say enough about how effective that is in getting you to your goal. Or if anybody
I
has
would-
had, yeah, go ahead.
I would be very interested in a not one-on-one, but like a class where we could all sit down and do that together. Because I always get lost in the process. Like I'm like, okay, I want to do this much, and then I have to do these every month, and then it's like, how are you gonna do it? I'm like, well, like lead generation, sorry. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, like that's it. Like, and then I don't know what's next, like, so if we could do that together, that would be great.
Yeah, I would say if you haven't already, a good place to start is the video on the YouTube page from Charlie and Maureen, where they set up goals for the year. It was towards the end of last year that they did it. But that takes the numbers and breaks it down. Ultimately, you want to go from how much money do I want to make, like gross commission income. And also, of course, keep in mind, like, okay, that means I take out my split to Keller Williams and I take out my taxes to get whatever number you're really hoping for. But gross commission income broken down to number of sales, because you have some idea or you can estimate your average commission check, broken down to number of contacts that you have to make. So like the number of people you have to work with, the number of contacts you have to make in order to get to that many clients. And so it kind of builds out and tells you total how many people you have to reach out to every week. And then it comes down to literally just counting every week. Like, I need to connect with this many people. And then it's however you prefer to do that. Am I reaching out on social media? Am I calling them? Am I knocking on doors? Am I sending them a card in the mail, shooting them a text, texting them a video, messaging them on social media, however you choose to do that to try to reach those folks. But knowing that number every week, even if you feel like you accomplished nothing, if you're like, well, I connected with 10 people this week and that was my goal, and that's my progress towards this goal for the year, that's what you should be doing. And it feels sometimes like you're not getting anywhere, and then all of a sudden people pop up out of the blue. So it's worth having that tracking and sticking to that. And it sounds so basic, you guys. I'm telling you, this whole job is so about the basics, and nobody, like 10% of us are doing the basics on a regular basis consistently. That is all we are doing. We are not magical unicorns. This is what you have to do. And it realizes itself in business. You continue to get people that come back to you, people that seem to pop up out of the blue that you've been reaching out to and communicating with, putting the word out there that this is what you do for months, and suddenly it starts to roll back. I even started noticing this by my second or third year, and now in year 7, it is a nonstop flow of business, and I'm just doing the basics. I don't pay for leads. I don't pay for Google ads. I don't pay for Zillow. I don't pay for Yelp. I don't pay for any of that stuff. I just ask people to fill out feedback forms and I get people online. I'm out there in the community in physical form or social media, reminding people what I do. And I'm connecting with my past clients in my sphere regularly. And it's not always about real estate. It's whatever I can bring to them that's of value. And those things come back around. So it sounds redundant and kind of silly, like, oh, it's got to be harder than that, right? Like, you can make really good money in this business. You must have to do some really insane things and invest tons of money. And like, you really don't. I'm telling you from experience. We are halfway to our 100 sales goal by the end of June this year, and we're doing the basics. It's not super complicated. It's not super expensive. It's really what you need to do. So when it comes to feedback, we send out an email to our clients. And if anybody watched the Lance Loken group call on YouTube, or if you watched it live on Zoom, I highly recommend going back and watching that. But they actually check in with people multiple times throughout the process. We check in, I check in, by text, like, how are you feeling about the process, stuff like that. But the week of closing, about, a few days before closing, we send out an email, and it's like thanking them for working with us, and we'd super appreciate if you took the time to fill out some feedback for us, or write a recommendation. And we provide the links to Yelp, Zillow, Google. We invite people to friend me on Facebook, follow our Facebook and our Instagram for our team, and write reviews there. And we say, like, you can write the same review and just copy and paste it in all these places, and that would be super. And not everybody does it, but the ones who do write really stellar reviews. And I just got a call again yesterday from somebody who found me online, was looking at my reviews. You know, you don't have to have that many to build it up. And it, you know, it's something to start now, so that over the course of your career, right? It's not about a great year, it's about a great career. You've got this for reference, this like beautiful library of all these gushing reviews. And you can ask people to send it to you directly too, and that way you can use it. You can copy and paste it into your website, a document that you give people at open houses that's, you know, speaks to people's experience with you. You can put it in your buyer consult book, your listing packet. You can put it on social media. That's gold. And you can go as far as asking people to do videos. You know, it's really easy to do that now. They don't have to be professional. You could even do it at closing. I see people who do that too. They're like, hey, can we take, you know, give them a heads up, advance warning. We just want to do a, you know, 20-second video about your experience working with us, and you just catch them at closing. You know, plan to do that. But having people vouch for you, and truth be told, they don't have to be past clients. They can just be people that are vouching for you as a person. You know, I know that, you know, Betsy's like a total go-getter. So like, I'm going to tell people in my video, like, she's got energy for days, and she's like super organized, and she's going to get it done no matter what. And you know, she's going to work hard for you, and just like use that. It doesn't say that they're a past client. It's just a character reference, right? And that can really help. Everything we buy these days has a review on it, right? Like, everybody's hesitant to click that put it in my cart button unless there's a 5-star or some kind of insight to what it's like to experience whatever it is you're trying to purchase. So having reviews can be really helpful. And that's something that's free and something that goes out there to the universe and you can refer back to. So that can be a handy thing to do as well. And can potentially count as your touches with people, right? If you're asking a friend to provide a character reference or a video or a few words about you or whatever it is, that can be a way that you're also connecting with them, right? You're showing them that you're working hard, you're trying to build your business, you're trying to show people that you care, and that's a contact, and they're actually helping you with something while you're also, lead generating. So a lot of what you're doing, as long as you're connecting with people, it counts. Like it's not that complicated. Like if you want to reach out to somebody about something you're excited about, if you're volunteering for something and you're connecting with somebody, that's all lead generation. It's just, are you in front of somebody in some form and somehow they're reminded of what you do or how great you are or why you care, so that when they think about real estate, they think about you. That's it. However that works, like whatever your community is and whatever form you communicate with people. It's so easy now though, you guys. It's like, it's all on your phone, right? Yeah, so highly recommend going and checking out that video on the YouTube page. And then in terms of like, how do I break this down for myself? That's something you can do in an accountability call with me. It might not be a bad idea to do what we were doing before COVID was workshops for lunch. And we would have time when people could come in and I'd be there to kind of bop around and check in with people and help you one-on-one with things. So having a more of a hands-on refresher class for that might be a good thing to do in May in preparation for the last half of the year. So I'll make note of that. Anybody else? I'm so surprised that nobody has more questions. We've had some good ones in the last couple of weeks. Well, I think that's a good amount of info for some things that maybe there are holes in your, information that you have so far. So hopefully that's kind of filled in some of the gaps. Keep an eye out for some information about classes in person. I know that we are working on that, just trying to figure out how to do that in the safest, most responsible way. And I'll be in touch with Janine to talk about how that's going to affect our plans for classes topics in the next few weeks or so. But I mean, the market is still rolling along. There's a good chance we'll see a slowdown Memorial Day weekend that usually happens. There's a chance we'll see a slowdown around 3rd of July that usually happens, 4th of July. I'm all about the fireworks, so it's 3rd of July for me. But we'll see dips as we get into the summer season. I'm very curious to see if this does affect our buyer activity as people can get out and do fun things, and there's more activities and parties and stuff like that as people are vaccinated. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the market, but don't let that affect you. Just keep plugging away. I can't tell you how often I talk to people where they're like, man, it's really slowed down for me. Like the market's really slowed down. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I have not slowed down at all. So if you're doing the work, if you're connecting with people, if you're continuing to set those good systems and grow your business and build it up, you don't have to be slow when everybody else is slow. You can also decide to be slow when things are slow or other people have a lot of business going on. A lot more of this is in your control than you think. If there are times that it slows down, it's usually for like a week. It's not a whole season. So, I mean, if you need a break, take a break. But if you want to have business, like keep plugging away because there's still business to be had. I think that chart of how much our company has grown and listings and contracts written and closings versus the general Milwaukee Metro MLS is very telling of that. So you can be in that percentage that is still rocking when other people are like, oh, it's kind of slow for me. Well, okay, we'll pick up the phone, like make it happen. What are you doing? It's very much in your hands. All right, well, I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to give you the gift of time. Use the extra 11 minutes to contact your sphere or reach out to leads or follow up with somebody you haven't followed up with yet. Or get out that YouTube video and start to figure out your goals for the rest of the year. I'm telling you, write them down, check them, visit them regularly, track where you are. It's going to help you feel like you're making strides, even if you don't have a closing yet. And that momentum is what you need. Just get that momentum going and you'll keep riding it out. I'm telling you, it's like a runaway train once you get going.
Hey, Amanda,
All right.
Quick question, if that's if I could, correct me if I'm wrong. So I was told prior to COVID, after team meetings on Tuesdays, there was like a listing tour or like list of houses that were like new to the market that you can like check them out.
Yes.
Is that something that we could like talk about doing, or is there still
okay, so this is the whole thing. There's something called broker tour or broker open houses. This used to happen every Tuesday between 11 and 1 was most common. And it was mostly North Shore, but it happened in other areas as well. Mequon to Bayview. But it was a time when agents could have new listings. They had to be listed on the market, open house style for brokers. And it was so fun because the way they tried to get us in there was they'd have like free lunch and snacks. It was such a great way to see homes in person, get into those, some of those $1 million houses were on that list. We'd get a tour list and you could go wherever you wanted. And I would try to get to as many as possible. And you just kind of pop in and out. Great way to meet other agents, overhear other agents talking about properties, and also get some like pictures and videos to put on social media. I super miss broker tour. I hope it comes back. It may be a little while yet, but I think we're big enough that if we wanted to bring it back just with Keller Williams, we could start that. Talk about momentum. But yeah, I'm hoping that comes back. It's really, really great when you're new, especially because you can get into those properties and look like you're out there on showings and also have something to send people and say, like, I've actually seen this in person. So you can like target areas where you want to farm. So if you're at a listing presentation, you've already been in that house. It would be great to get back to those because it is hard to get into properties unless you have a buyer and you manage to get one of those 15 to 30-minute windows for showings. Or if you go to open houses on the weekend, that's kind of a good supplement. But yeah, hopefully that'll come back on Tuesdays. Good question.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. I almost forgot about it. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to like be able to get into the, you know, properties that I wouldn't normally get into to walk around and pictures and things.
Yeah, it's great. And it's also really fun to go around with like a little group of agents. That's always a blast. Sometimes it's a distraction from what I should actually be doing, but it's always informative also. So it's justifiable fun.
Absolutely. Knowledge and
Yeah.
numbers. Look at it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. We'll be in touch about in-person classes. I know we'll continue to have some video classes as well. I don't think we're going 100% in person, but we're working on figuring that out as a team of launch coaches, and take advantage of all that free stuff that's out there for the month. I mean, there's so many good classes and resources. Past what we've had over the last couple of weeks have been incredible. So highly recommend that you go back through and check out what's applicable to what you're focusing on right now. And if you do nothing else this week, get your goals on paper. Do it. Do it. I'm telling you, it's worthwhile, even if it's not the most fun thing to do. You will see results if you make a goal and track it. And don't forget to call me to set up an accountability call. Shoot me a text and we can do that too. All right, that's all I got, y'all.
Thank
Have a good
you.
afternoon.
Take
Take care.
care.
Thank you.